5, 4, 3.
Fuck it.
There's no words on tomorrow.
Fuck it.
We'll do it live.
Fuck it.
Cause I've never seen that fucking thing suck. There's no words there.
Fuck it.
There's no words on tomorrow.
Fuck it.
We'll do it live.
Fuck it.
Cause I've never seen that fucking thing suck. There's no words there. I don't know. Fuck. 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 I don't know what. Go. I can't do it. Fuck it. Go. I can't do it. Fuck it. Go. I can't do it. Fuck it. Go. I can't do it. Thanks again for watching.
Fuck it.
There's no words on tomorrow.
Fuck it.
We'll do it live.
Fuck it.
Cause I've never seen that fucking thing suck. There's no words there.
Fuck it.
There's no words on tomorrow.
Fuck it.
We'll do it live.
Fuck it.
Cause I've never seen that fucking thing suck. There's no words there.
Okay, ready?
Take it away. Go. Yeah. Go. Yeah. Go. Yeah.
Fuck it. Fuck it.
We'll do it live. Go. Yeah. Go. Yeah. Go. Yeah.
Fuck it. Fuck it.
We'll do it live.
Fuck it.
Go.
Fuck it. Fuck it.
Go.
Fuck it. Fuck it.
Go.
Fuck it. Fuck it.
Go.
Fuck it.
What does that mean? To play us out?
Fuck it.
To end the show? Yeah.
Yo, what the fuck's up, everybody? Welcome to the 20th fucking episode of Dark Horse Live. Thanks for joining us. And right off the bat, you already know what we do on this here program. So let's kick out some free fucking seeds. And what are we gonna do right up first? Let's do Chemlim. Got a couple of Chemlims here. Thanks for the host, Ninja. Chemlim, 6-pack. We'll do 2 of these. 2 6-packs, Chemlims. If you want to win these, you have to hit up the email on your screen. Where is that? There, should be coming across your screen right now. Hit up the email on your screen, darkhorsegeneticslive@gmail.com. In the subject line, write crybaby. Crybaby. Which looks like we already have a fucking troll in the chat. So we'll dedicate that one to the crybaby in the fucking chat. I don't know who you are or what your deal is, bud, but yeah, welcome. All's welcome, including the trolls. Krispy Kreme, whatever the fuck. But it's cool. Say your piece, I can give a shit. Right on, moving on. Next fucking free shit for people. Let's go with... Did I just do Chemlim or Crybaby?
You did Chemlim.
Oh, shit. Let's do Crybaby for Krispy Kreme there, whoever the fuck he is. Crybaby. 2 6-packs. And to win this, you gotta write out, I love trolls. 2 of them. Sweet. So, yeah, that'll be in the subject line. I love trolls. We'll do the 5th person. Actually, let's change it up because there's been a lot of people that have been emailing in. So let's make it like the 20th person. Because, yeah, some of you guys are super fast. The same names, the first 5 all the time. Let's do the 20th. So even some of the replay dudes might have a chance. But a 20th person, I love trolls in the subject line. And you will get these fuckers. Also, I just want to say right off the top, we've given away, I just sort of added up today, we've given away over, thanks Blue, 100 packs in 20 shows, which I think is pretty fucking cool. I have no idea the monetary value or any of that bullshit, but I always wanted to come on here and just sort of kick out free packs like every week, and I think it's pretty cool that, I don't know, when I read the inbox for all the people trying to win these things and some of the comments in there, I really appreciate a lot of the things that are being said, so I appreciate it. Keep trying to win, guys. We only give 1 per show, but best of luck. Once again, darkhorsegeneticslive@gmail.com for all the free shit. Let's take that off the screen. All right, free shit's gone. All right, so the fucking joint roll-off. The results are in, folks. We gave it 1 week. The, what are we calling it? The Routini roll-off, blindfolded, between TH Caesar and Stoned Ninja. We got to put the fucking joints on the screen real quick. There they are, right over my face. These are the joints. We posted them. We waited a week to get the results. These guys rolled these last week on the show, blindfolded, and I can now reveal the joint on the left was rolled by one Stone Ninja. The joint on the right was rolled by one TH Caesar. And I have the results. You'll notice these joints are both pretty fucking good. I gotta be honest. They're pretty fucking good. One telltale sign is the Caesar joint has like a tip on the noodle coming out. Over there. Yeah. And Ninjas is just a little bit like skinny or whatever. But I could tell right off the bat, even like if they would have passed me and said who rolled who, I could tell. But I got the results. Who do you think won? Left or right? Left or right? Drum roll, please. I don't have a drum roll sound. The left. Stone Ninja is your winner. 61 to 28 out of the votes. I just counted up before I came on here real quick. So I brought it to C's before he went to air. He demands a rematch of Speed. C's wants a Speed fucking rematch. He says he's confident he'll fucking beat him in a speed roll-off. So get your fucking rolling skills up to par. Ninja, he wants a fucking speed roll-off. We're doing it next, I don't know, not next week, but we'll get her done. All right. So who's on the show tonight? What the fuck are we going to talk about? Well, before I bring on BK, let me just say something real fucking fast. I don't really want to get political, but it's crazy fucking times right now, everybody. And I'm sure everyone, you know, I don't know if you heard, but there's a fucking riot. You hear about this news? Oh, there's riot everywhere, every fucking major city going on or whatever. It's an important time. All I want to say is don't. I support the protesters, obviously. It's time for some change. But I do think there's something fucked up going on. And that's why I say I don't really want to get super like into this. But it appears, if you're paying attention, it appears that there's like professional rioters that are coming in, fucking shit up on purpose, trying to, I don't know, lose the moral high ground, seeing weird videos of bricks showing up places and stuff. Like, yeah, cops are bullies and cops have been pricks for a long fucking time. But I don't know, pay attention. As a community, pay attention. Don't fucking loot, cannabis stores. We can't get insurance for shit. It makes no sense to loot cannabis stores when really, we've been persecuted by the police just as much as anybody. We went through a fucking drug war to get here. We have no fucking help from our government at all. So I'm not going to say that, cannabis is more important than the movement that's going on at all, because it's not. I'm just going to say, you're choosing the wrong fucking places to loot. I think you know it, but at the same time, I think this is being done with an agenda. So I don't know. Don't lose your rights over this shit, and pay attention. And with that, everyone stay safe. And yeah, let's get the fuck off that topic. I don't want to stay there too long. I didn't read the comments, but I offended you right there. I'm fucking sorry. We're literally, in a super fucked up time. Everyone's super fragile and super emotional. So just sit tight and pay attention to what the fuck's happening. But with that, let's move it on. Moving on to Mr. BK Roller on the show tonight. Guest interview. There's BK. Welcome, bro.
What's going on, man? What's
So-
up, guys?
So, we got to start at the very beginning, BK. What was the first time you smoked weed, bro? And tell me a little bit about your youth. Where are you from?
Shit, I'm from Kentucky. A little bitty ass town on the southwestern border of Tennessee and Missouri. Mayfield. Everybody calls it Mayberry. I do. I spent, not a whole lot of time there. And then Anytown, USA for a while. And then a long time in Louisville, back in Louisville, Kentucky. First time I smoked weed, I remember it to this day. I was pretty young, man. Not gonna lie, I hate to, because one of my youngest sons, but he's a teenager, sitting in the audience. But let's see, the first time I smoked was in Houston, Texas. Me and my best friend come in from school, got off the bus. It was our daily schedule. His mom was dating a Dallas cowboy. I think she was his side chick, because he wasn't there, but he bought her new cars and paid the rent type shit. And so we went in, was going to raid the refrigerator. And I remember we made it like 2 steps past his mom's doorway, which was open. And he stopped and he kind of put his hand out and stopped me. We backed up and there's a pair of feet sticking out from under his mom's bed. And so we sit there, we walk up and just sit there silently waiting for him to back out. And it's his older brother, and he's got this big bag of weed. I'm talking pillowcase size. And we're just like, and he looks at us and doesn't skip a beat, reaches into his pocket, pulls out a fatty about the size of our pinky, and says, "Don't tell Mom." So my buddy grabs the joint. We go right up to his brother's room. It's wallpapered with like Iron Maiden posters, and we smoked it. We blazed it right then, and I knew I loved fucking weed right then. I'd already knew my dad smoked. I knew he grew. I'd never bothered smoking because I don't know.
Was it swag?
Was it swag? It probably was. I mean, I don't know. It's pre-road, so I don't know what it looked like. The bag, I guess, looked pretty decent, but I had a pretty high bar set because my old man knew how to grow good weed. And he put out the NL5 and the skunk #1, what people call roadkill skunk. That's what he was growing back in the day, and that's what he was like. He was definitely growing more than what he was smoking. I guess is the right way to put it.
So that brings me. What was the first time you saw a plant?
I don't know, 5. 5 years old. I saw seedlings on the mantle, and he had a ritual. I learned young,
Sure.
just from observing. He would pop his seeds in December. He would sex them in January, and then he would put out 4 to 6 footers as soon as weather permitted.
Gotcha. When was the first time you started growing weed?
First time I started growing weed was, I think I was 16, 17. And it was just a plant at first, in the closet, like everybody does with the stupid shit. Not a good grow light because they weren't really existent at that time. And just an utter failure. But then when I was 18, I got a light. And it was funny because I just heard somebody bring this shit up the other day, and it was PL Lighting. PL Lighting had like the first fucking HID light that you could, grow light that you could buy on
Yeah.
it. And I had to drive like 3 hours to pick up that bitch. And
So you were there at the advent of the HID light, basically?
oh yeah. But once I got that HID light, I knew from Dad that it was about genetics. So I was all about trying to, like, he had ordered his seeds from Holland, I want to say in the 70s, late 70s, definitely maybe early 80s at the latest was if he bought any at that time, because he pretty much like ran the shit out of that NL5 and that skunk. His skunk was so putrid. He tried to tell me a few times when I was growing up that he quit smoking, and he snitched on himself every time because he tried to smoke a little roach in the bathroom, and the whole house would smell like a skunk sprayed it. I mean, it was like, yeah, you're doing good on quitting smoking, Dad.
Was he cool with you, obviously, with cannabis, or was he kind of strict towards it? It had some different
my dad
mentality.
was super strict.
So he didn't want you smoking or growing or around it at all?
No, I mean, he, not that he didn't want me around it. And that's where I gave him a little bit of respect, because both he and my mom smoked, and I knew about it, found out about it at a young age. Dad didn't really hide it from me at first. He just, as I was getting older, I think he became more paranoid about me talking about it maybe at school. And so, he tried to play that I'm quitting, But at a young age, he did have that talk with me. He's like, look, what I do is my business. It's not anyone else's business. You're not to talk about it to your friends. You're not to talk about it to school, because I could get in trouble for this, and, nobody wants that.
Sure.
And, you know, I respected him for that. Mom, on the other hand, tried to hide it from me the whole time and never was like straightforward. So she lost a little bit of respect from me, you know, in that aspect. But then again, you know, after I confronted her, I think I was 14, and they were smoking a joint in the backyard when we was living in Houston, Texas. And, you know, they had the proverbial circle going, and I just kind of walked up beside her as she was hitting it, and she went to pass it to the next person, and that was me. And she took a stutter, and I went ahead and took it from her and hit it. And she was like, oh, okay. You know, but, you know, moms and dads was both pretty cool. But dad was super strict. He didn't want me smoking at all until I was 18. We never smoked together until I think I was probably 20, when we finally broke that ice.
Gotcha. So I'm going to shift gears just a little bit because we kind of have a decent amount to go over, but that sort of brings me into like your MMA world, because I know that at some point, I don't know at what age, but at some point you get heavily involved in MMA. And talk to me a little bit about, you know, what led you to MMA, and just a little bit of what you went through, your experience with MMA.
What's up, Nika? I'm sorry, I haven't been looking at the comments any.
Nika T, what up?
I don't know, man. That shit started early too. I remember my first fight. It was in kindergarten, and I had to piss in middle class, and so the teacher let me go to the bathroom, and I walk in the bathroom, and there's this big dumpy kid just dropping knees on this little scrawny nerdy kid. And, you know, mind you, I'm just, this is kindergarten. I'm like 5 years old or 6 years old, something like that, whatever it is. And I don't know, it's kind of like I made that decision right then that I wasn't going to let no one hurt someone, especially someone smaller than them. I wasn't going to let bullying go on around me. And I ran up and kicked the kid in the back of the head. He tripped over the kid in the floor, kind of fell face first into a urinal, and I grabbed him by his hair and just started bashing his head into the urinal. And from there on, I fought so much.
Is that the first fight of your life, obviously, at 5?
Yeah.
Other than,
yeah.
you know, kid shit?
That was at 5. And then naturally, with Mom moving around all my life, especially young, I was always the new kid at school. So that shit just gave me more practice.
But you learned, I mean, you learned a specific kind of MMA, being Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and early, before it was well-known and popular. You were kind of doing this before UFC was even a fucking thing. Yeah. Like, when did you kind of, you know, get into classes or MMA? Because you ran your own gym at some point down the line. So, like, what brought you to, like, getting formal training rather than beating the shit out of, you know, kids at school?
Okay. I had been kind of fighting a little bit for money. Underground, it was just referred to as no holds barred at that time. And
like tough enough shits?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. And one of my buddies entered me into a pro fight for hook and shoot. And just because he wanted me to, you know, get into that shit. And it's funny because it was supposed to be an amateur fight, and the gentleman that owns Hook and Shoot was, he knew me, and he was like, no, it's not going to be an amateur fight. You know too much. So it was going to be a pro fight. And another friend of mine, Marvel Banks, he implored me to just roll around with him and see what happens if it went to the ground, because it looked like I was going to be paired up with a wrestler, a guy that went on to have a hell of a career, Mike Brown. And he got me to get on the mat with him, and he's way smaller than me. He's probably 135 pounds. It's 135 pounds of sheer muscle. He was a wrestler in high school, and he took jiu-jitsu. He was a blue belt at that time. And he controlled me for 30 minutes. I don't think he tapped me until I tapped from exhaustion, but the sheer fact that I couldn't get up or get away from him, and him being way smaller than me, kind of opened my eyes. And he started teaching me jiu-jitsu just privately in the basement. Then he was like, you know, I've taught you what I can teach you. I want you to go to where I started, which was Hickson Gracie School. And I don't know, man, I fell in love with that. I was a striker all the way up to that. I was sheer hands. But I always felt bad, even though the people that I usually hurt was more than deserving of it. I felt bad about how bad I hurt them.
Instant sympathy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
And so I went to the academy. It was Louisville Martial Arts Academy. Alan Manganello, head instructor. Hell of a guy, hell of an instructor. And hell of a good group of people. I started training there. Just like I said, fell in love with Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. And then I started traveling, and because I did want to fight at the pro level, and I started training with a lot of the world champions at that time in different aspects. Like, I went and my triangle was supposed to be real good, so I wanted to make it better. So I went to Ryan Hall, who had the most triangles in competition, and, you know, I trained with him. And I don't know, I started getting called Hollywood back at the gym because I was going and training with all these people. But I brought the knowledge back to the gym, and I shared it. But me and the instructor, he had a cage fight coming up, and I blocked a throw, and it left him open for a right cross or an uppercut. And because I was gripping at his hips, I chose the uppercut, which lifted our body weight up a little bit. And he thought that I had removed my foot, so he tried to kick through and finish the toss, and it completely tore my ACL off of my femur. And, that kind of
Change things.
That kind of changed shit, yeah. It became almost a game of trying to I don't know, to heal good enough to fight, But then flash forward, because I'd traveled and I trained with these people, a lot of them are potheads. So we got to be good friends.
Yeah.
And, I trained with a lot of good people. And then I got affiliated with Atos under Andre Gaval. That was my first gym. And I was partnered with 2 other people in New Albany. And then shortly after trying to help them get that gym off the ground, because it's hard game, guys, to run a gym and make any kind of profit, let alone survive.
Sure.
And I had been training with Eddie Bravo quite frequently at seminars and stuff. And he had a gym in Indianapolis that was having issues with the coach, and he was going to pull the affiliation. And so I went up there and, did well with that gym. And then I went through my divorce, and I think I lost my mind a little bit and kind of stepped away from training at all. I walked away from my students, which I still really feel bad about. And I don't think I would have went back to training if it wasn't for my buddy Nick Diaz having me come out to California that summer. And I spent a few months living with him, starving because he's a vegan.
Yeah, I was going to say, that brings me to the Diaz brothers or whatever. So you obviously at some point started working with or training or cornering or something with the Diaz brothers, because I'm about to play a video on Strikeforce where shit gets fucking wild and you're in the corner and you jump in on national TV or whatever. But kind of briefly, like, segue that into how Nick calls you out to start training because you've been traveling and you've picked up jiu-jitsu all over the place. Nick calls you out to start training or whatever. So how do you get to this moment in Strikeforce on CBS on national TV where
Well,
shit goes fucking bonkers. We're about to show it.
Nick calls me up and he invites me out, but it was really just like he knew I was in a bad space. So he, you know, it wasn't like he was making me the best person in the world or whatever. No, but I owe him beyond what I can ever repay because I'd given up on training. I think at that time I'd been off the mats for 6 months and had no desire to return. I was full of rage. And I had been with him for probably a week or so, and I hadn't trained, bro. And we were at Caesars. That's where that picture is that you're showing there. We were at Caesars. And that's actually the first day I trained after my divorce. And we trained, that's after 4.5 hours straight of rolling and sparring with no breaks and with me feeling starved. And I thought that I was going to crash because I hadn't had no protein in forever. But I didn't, man. His diet definitely, it gives you energy. And, you know, they dressed out to train, and I was sitting there. I was going to watch them. I brought my gear, but I still didn't feel it. And he was like, you know, are you going to change out? And I said, nah, man. He's like, I don't want to hurt nobody, man. And he's like, you're not going to hurt me, bitch. He said, get fucking dressed out and get your ass out on the mat. So he literally drugged me out on the mat, and I'm grateful to this day for it.
So at what point walk me through what I guess I'll just gonna play this crazy fucking clip real quick, and I kind of want you to walk me through what the fuck happens here, because at this point, was this a Diaz fight?
No, this was Jake Shields' fight. He was fighting Jason Miller, Mayhem Miller. And I can give you a brief rundown. Jake's fixing to announce that he signed a contract with the UFC. So he's fixing to give Scott Coker's association, which was Strikeforce, kind of a downplay and shit on them on national TV. This was the very first MMA fight free on national
That's what I
TV.
said. This was a monumental moment.
Yes. And Jake had just signed with the UFC, and he was fixing to he was like, he had a speech written up, like, you guys never respected me, you never promoted me. And so Scott Coker, I was sitting there, and Scott Coker sent a text to Miller and said, go stop him now.
Yeah. So what? That's why Mayhem Miller came down?
That's why
Mayhem Miller, real quick, folks. If you watch that, I don't know if you know who that name sounds familiar to you, as that dipshit that was on Bully Beatdown on MTV or whatever, and he had like red hair, and
Yeah.
you're about to see him. But why the fuck did Mayhem Miller come running down on national TV with millions of people watching?
Because Scott told him to stop Jake from talking. Because I messed up. Jake was fighting Dan Henderson, and he about lost in the first 60 seconds. Like, he got knocked stone cold by the H-bomb, and his eyes was fixed, but the canvas woke him up, thank God.
I mean, I just want to see this real quick. So this is the end of the fight.
We can have a little talk afterwards.
So he clamors for his rematch.
And hell breaks up.
And Nick and Nate are in here. They pretty much start all this.
Look, Nate's kicking the
And then-
shit.
I wanna
Look, see,
pause right here.
I pulled Nate back because he's kicking Nick in the
This
head.
is you pulling
Yeah.
Nate back. This is your arm.
Because he's kicking
You're
Nick
right
in the
here.
head. Right there, you just showed him kick Nick in the head like 3 fucking times. He's trying to kick Miller.
So that's you there.
That's me, yeah.
And then, there's Nick. And then Nate's down here fucking kicking the shit out of Mayhem.
Well,
Trying
he
to?
was trying to, but his knee was hitting Nick in the head before his foot connected with Miller. And you see me pull Nick back right there. And then you see Big John go knee on belly. And I tell John, what the fuck are you doing? I got him good. He's good right now. He's fixing to fuck you up. And you'll watch John jump off of him real fast.
That Big John McCarthy right there,
Yep.
the big ref for the
Yep.
or the UFC.
Yep.
But yeah, so this was crazy because this had like Super Bowl level views on, CBS, and it was the first time they ever brought this to CBS, and a lot of people said this kind of ruined the Strikeforce deal or whatever. That and Kimbo get knocked out in like 5 seconds on his little fight there.
I tell you what ruined Strikeforce, because I was there. I was behind the scenes a little bit, and Dana bought him out.
Or that.
There was a deal that I had with Strikeforce that fell through because on the day of signing, Scott Coker walked in and he announced to everyone that they were all fired, or that he had sold the company, and everyone was going to get to keep their job. And then Dana comes in and said they're all fired, and they were happy to reapply to Zuffa. But we all know how that went.
Yeah, we know I know there's not a whole lot of love lost between you and Dana White, who you've talked to or met a couple of times. Kind of called him out a little bit. But yeah, so
I definitely called him out over the weight cutting issue.
I was going to say, so what kind of led you out of MMA, cornering, coaching? You still sort of do it, you know what I mean? But now you're back to the cannabis industry. So now we segue back over to cannabis again. And it's, you're back into cannabis. And I kind of want to talk about this. Essentially, it's called the Cornbread Mafia. And I'm sure some folks have heard of it before. But this comes from... You correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't have a ton of the research, but it comes from your region, Kentucky, I believe. And it was 70 people. Here's a quick little rundown on it, if I can bring it up on the screen. It was 70 people who were charged in this huge cannabis bust. Desktop, here we go. And yeah, it was like the biggest cannabis bust probably ever at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, 70 people went down and nobody talked. And you have a loose connection to this that kind of, I kind of want to talk. It's interesting because the thing about Cornbread Mafia is nobody talks about shit. And you know what I mean? And it's
I still don't feel comfortable talking about it, but I've been told, while I'm dug in and have disappeared and kind of get freaked out when anybody mentioned it, up until last year, which this. Yeah, that is the reason that I was able to get the genetics that I did, that enabled me to save.
Was this through your father a little bit, or how did you kind of get introduced to all this, these characters? Or?
It's funny because that falls back to the same guy that introduced me into jiu-jitsu, Marvel Banks. His uncle was, pretty much blood. We referred to him as the old man. And, we all had indoor grows, so everybody at that time besides me was growing, not just for smoke. I couldn't afford to grow and sell because I couldn't afford to get busted because I was trying to cure my high school sweetheart from cancer. That was the reason that I grew. It's the reason that I started growing. It's the reason I started breeding. It was what gave me the passion in marijuana, period. It wasn't my daddy growing. It wasn't, my circle growing. And they all grew fire weed. But I grew organic, non-bottle fed bullshit. I was the mad scientist of the group. And it was all with organics. I mean, nowadays you guys got it easy. You can just go get a good organic line off the shelf. Back in the day, I had to source every part of it and the highest quality of that part. I was using fulvic acid and humic acid way back, late 80s, early 90s, before most people knew what the hell it was. And, just because I was trying to compete with all my buddies that were growing with salts, and they had these great big nice looking buds, but my buds tasted better and they get you higher. But I wasn't having the production. So I tried to combat that by using fulvics and humics and making everything that was organic more bioavailable. But back to the question, yeah, when the bus went down, the old man went down, he told us all to disappear. And for the most part, most of us did. I know a few family members that still got busted, right after that. And then a few years later down the road.
How did they get busted? Do you know? Like, what was the tip off?
domestic. It was their old ladies.
So they had a domestic dispute, violence or whatever,
Yeah.
and a situation. And
It
the cops
wasn't a
came?
domestic violence. It was just going through divorce, going through a breakup. That's generally how. I mean, but then they had, I don't want to say names, but Buddy's number, and he should have laid low or moved the fuck out of state, and instead he just like moved to a different neighborhood and fired up another 1,000 plant grow.
Sure.
And
Stayed and kept it rolling, and that kind of was his downfall.
I mean, he's still free now, but I don't talk to him. Like, I cut all ties from him when he didn't listen in the first place.
Sure.
Flash forward to today, just in the past few months, I find out that, Jimmy's out, Johnny's supposed to be getting out. Like, these are things that we never thought was ever going to happen.
So how many years did these guys end up doing? Like 20? And they're starting to get out now? Like,
Johnny was supposed to be out like 2 weeks ago, maybe longer, because of this COVID shit.
yeah, I saw
that's
that COVID's been delaying his release, but
which doesn't make any fucking sense.
how much time do you think they did in general?
Too long.
Well, obviously, but yeah.
I mean,
what year do they go in? Do you have any idea?
The first time was shit. Fuck, man, I don't remember because he was out for a little while, and then the big bomb dropped.
Gotcha.
But I'd say he probably served 20 to 26 years.
Either way, a ridiculous amount of time in jail, and these guys are now starting to get out. And again, 70 people busted, nobody talked. You want to talk about not happening in 2020? Like,
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean?
That's why.
That's the only reason they've thrown the name Mafia on the end of this shit, in my opinion, is because there's an omerta code with this cornbread folk that just aren't going to fucking rat on each other, and they all took time or whatever the fuck it was, but not a single one of them talked. And that sort of brings me over to another point, which is there was a book that's been written, I think 2 books, and I don't even know the dude's name. Well, it might be on this.
It's fucking James Higdon who
There
the
you
fuck
go.
wrote it.
So there's some books that have been written, yeah, and I know that you take exception with some of the stuff in the books and the trademarking of the names and all of this stuff.
Well, I mean, a lot of the information in the book is close to being on par. It's the fact that Jimmy went to the fucking prison, interviewed Johnny, and they had a deal to produce this book, and he was supposed to receive a share of the profits. Johnny went ahead and trademarked the name Cornbread Mafia, and I think even started maybe a CBD line. I tried to not really look into that too much because I don't want to revert back to not having the zen that I have today.
Totally.
But anyway, long story short is he screwed Johnny over and Jimmy over and the family over because he's not and never
Didn't compensate him the way he said he would or whatever.
exactly. And he's made, I know the book's made 1.5 million in sales. So, I know the publisher raped you, but he's made some scratch and he hasn't shared any of it. When Jimmy got out, from what I understand, they kind of fought over the fact that they wanted to start a line called Cornbread CBD because they were passing hemp laws in Kentucky at the time. And I think Jimmy had already patented that name and was, he would just refusing to. It's almost like, you guys got caught, so you're not going to do anything or act like you used to.
Sure.
Because you got all kinds of bitches that would never follow the code, would never do their fucking time, don't know what it is to be a fucking man, that want to claim to be part of my crew.
Well,
and that's fucking sickening.
That's what I was going to kind of say, is that's led, this legend of this Cornbread Mafia has led some people to claim affiliation to it or whatever that necessarily have no rhyme or reason or even distant cousin to it or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens with fucking you know, I guess cool stories or stories of, you know what I mean, like underworld type of shit. But at the same, you know, stuff that also maybe thinks can't be proven or won't be proven or stuff like that. But I don't know. I mean, I'm interested to know like how does that work, because we've talked recently about a licensing type of deal that you were approached with or whatever, and I'm just sort of interested to know like these guys obviously have a hemp company. They've kind of been burned by a book deal. You know what I mean? Now they're freshly getting out of prison, you know, and obviously been exploited. There's still people exploiting them. Maybe they can't handle things the way they used to. So I'm just sort of wondering, like, you know, from this point, I guess, you know, I don't know that you're an official spokesman of it. Maybe you are, but you can kind of clue us into what's happening now with this Cornbread Mafia crew in character and almost brand, if you will. Yeah, like where do you want to go with it?
Well, you know, yeah, Higdon kind of screwed us in the one area, but what we are planning on launching is CBG, which is the Cornbread Mafia Genetics, and that will be headed by myself and Nick Risden. And why we're talking about Nick, guys, I know a lot of y'all follow him and know that the dude's a warrior. He's not doing good right now. He needs a lot of support and a lot of love. If you're in the Michigan area, he could even use a lot of help. He's overworked himself on his farm, trying to overdo things. He's having about 30 seizures a day, and I just spoke with him earlier before I got here, and he was driving himself to the hospital. So, and he's not in a good place mentally right now. He's not probably, you know, he's probably maybe not even going to want to talk to you, but if you can just reach out and just let him know that you're sending some thoughts and love to him.
Send some love to Nick. What's his IG? It's just Nick Risden.
Nick Risden.
RISDEN. Yeah. Nick Risden. Just, yeah, send Nick a little DM of love or support or whatever, because that dude literally going through everything he's going through, and I'm going to intend to bring him on when he's feeling better and he'll tell us his story, but that dude is the only living man from this Lyme disease, the specific version of Lyme disease that he got in the history of the world, and he's still struggling with it, like devastatingly or whatever. But my point is through this recently, you know, he's been doing auctions to help Duke, who's also in jail right now or whatever, and I just think it's pretty amazing that dude, in the condition that he's at, still trying to recover, still has time to get on lives and try to raise money for Duke.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of guy Nick is.
And give away his own shit when he don't have enough to give away, man.
So yeah, everyone go show a little love to Nick. But yeah, that sort of brings me into, so there's new things on the rise with the Cornbread Mafia Genetics or something with you and Nick kind of happening. That's pretty cool news. And with that said, I kind of, you know, that segues me into something where I want to talk briefly about it. There's character online, Joint Breath, I believe. This dude has entered into the market with, I don't know, he came in spitting fire. He wanted to kind of fight everybody at Endo Expo. He showed up with all of his roadkill skunk or whatever it was. I personally didn't meet him. I don't really know him. I probably shouldn't be jumping into this fight too much, but something came up where he's one of the characters you're talking about that likes to claim affiliation to this CBM or whatever.
Absolutely.
And, you know, he basically has no affiliation from what I understand.
None whatsoever.
But for some reason, he likes to stoke the fire on shit or whatever. And I'm not really, you know, as I've told people before on the show, I'm not ever going to ask anyone to go troll anyone. I'm just not going to do it. We're above that over here. Yeah, but man, I do want to show what this dude was up to very recently, which I think is pretty fucking insane. This is, I think he put it on Top Dog's page.
Yep.
And this was him stoking some shit on Duke, you know, wishing him hard times in prison and everything else. And he claims the Cornbread Mafia. And, you know, there's other ways that this may have been handled in the past. And I think that the safest way that we can handle this, honestly, is to just fucking do this on the mic. At least that's what I would encourage to happen or whatever. But, you know, this is ridiculous behavior. You know, wishing some dude's getting, you know, fucked or something in jail or whatever the fuck he's talking about. Like, yeah, it's ridiculous behavior. It's shameful. I have a limit. I don't want to drop any names, but we gave a cut to this dude through a through a friend of a friend or whatever, released it to him in exchange for something else or whatever. And he was, with that whole condition, like, hey, this is for you. Don't do anything with this, blah, blah. And now those cuts are out for sale or whatever. He violated that deal or whatever. So he just sort of ran into the market. He gained a couple people's trust. He's being blasted, I believe, by Riot and a bunch of other fucking people. And, I've had my quarrels with Riot or whatever, but I have BK on here now. And I just wanted to let him have the floor to say whatever the fuck you want to say about this. And I'll, and any affiliation to Cornbread Mafia that is there.
I mean, this kind of says it all. Anybody who was part of our crew, you think they would make a statement like that? You think they would make a statement about somebody fucking going to prison? Somebody that he was all fanboying up against when he first came into the scene. And then, apparently, this is what's so goddamn fucked up, man. It's just, there's something cosmic that saved this dude's ass, because he was literally over there crying tears to Cornbread Ricky and Chrome, because I don't want to say their names, but crying to them, why don't you accept me? And then he's going to go across the fucking expo and attack Tommy, try to front, like, he's like, well, you want to do something? Let's do something here. Come on, man. Like, are you a fucking moron? Like, if you really wanted to do something, you're not going to do it in the middle of a public place. Go do it to where it can be done and you can finish the fucking job,
As I say, he came to the trade show trying to bait people into stuff or whatever. It was an interesting approach because no one had ever heard of the dude. He just sort of showed up out of nowhere. And I just think it's interesting that this dude shows up literally out of fucking nowhere. And then, a crazy bunch of drama kind of ensues. And now we're at a point where this dude's, lost his fucking mind, where he's wishing, people in prison, rough times or whatever the fuck. And I'm just sort of like, I don't know how things got so fucking out of control with this shit. But
I'm still not sure. I think the dude's like possibly 5-0.
Well, I mean,
he dropped names. He did it Indo last year. And, honestly, he scared the shit out of me when he dropped some names, because they're names that, we don't, number one, we don't do that in our crew. We all had tags, and that's, unless we were super buddy and, back at cooking dinner for your family and my family at the same time, that's the only time we be calling really each other by our names or talking about somebody that wasn't around by their name. And, he was definitely dropping Jimmy and Johnny's name. The story was bullshit off the bat, because he was like, my uncle did time with Jimmy or Johnny and he gave him some cuts. And like, how the fuck you give somebody some cuts when you're in jail and been in jail for 20 fucking years? What fucking cuts do you have? It was all bullshit. The fucking little throat tattoo. It was nobody in my crew fucking rolls like that. A lot of us are tatted up and shit, but not in your face. Not like, sleeves and shit, because I mean, that shit's normal and adaptive today. But back in the day, it was about fucking not getting caught, man. It was about not standing out,
Right. I mean, it's just a different character or whatever. I mean, I think he burned his bridges, and honestly, we won't hear much out of him or whatever. But I just sort of wanted to point out, as we have, someone who's launching this Cornbread Mafia genetics officially, through the right players, licensed agreement type of deal that you have going on. You have also people trying to fake it, and then you have, pretty gross people doing stupid shit or whatever. So we'll just clear the air on that one real quick. You know what I mean? Again, I think this guy's a fucking moron. I know him to be untrustworthy from the interactions that we had through a friend of a friend.
I've seen some pictures posted of him lately. He looks like a special child. Like, I got a little pity for the dude now.
Well, with that said, I just want to reiterate is, look, we're not, I'm not going to ask you guys to go roast this dude or troll this dude or any of that shit. We're above all that. But I do want to authorize or get the facts out there, which is, that's not a real fucking CBM type of like agreement or license deal or whatever the fuck he is. He can put it all on his Instagram all he wants, but has nothing to do with you guys have going on. And clearly this guy's kind of off the ring or whatever. But I don't know. That's stupid topic, but I wanted to bring it up real quick.
Yeah.
And we can move past it. But let me ask you, as to this rollout that you kind of just mentioned or whatever, what can we expect? I mean, what is this genetics going to be all about?
So, what I love about it, besides it just kind of, bringing some real aspect to the name once again, is Nick is focused on medicinal strains, and I am focused on medicinal strains. That's what I've always been. That's always been my thing. The thing that I was growing for in the beginning was Rick Simpson oil, RSO, so it was always about high THC. That's why I sought the best cuts in the area always. If it was super dank, hey, I gotta fucking have that shit. And Kush came on the scene, I had to have that. And so I plan on a medical release, hopefully at the end of this year would be the first one. We're in the middle of testing a lot that Nick's already started on. I'm too fucking finicky. I'll go through 1,000 fucking seeds before I'll find a male that I'll work. But when I do, it's definitely still going to be Kush and Landrace as much as I can get back to, just because I think that the blending of the hybrids today with Landraces is kind of the way to revert back to, bring it full circle.
Sure.
We'll see how it pans out. I've played with my lamb's bread a little bit that I personally sourced way back. And I don't know. It was hit and miss. And that's kind of the way it is when you're working with land races. A lot of the shit comes out crazy. It's not used to, being grown under lights and being force-fed. And so, we'll see how it works out. But that's the generalized idea and the direction.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's cool. But hopefully by the start of the year, you said, or beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, folks, there's something new and exciting coming or whatever, and hopefully these guys all get out of jail and obviously get a share in the proceeds of it. So you're supporting some
Jimmy's
straight
out.
drug veterans.
Most of the people are out.
Drug
but,
war veterans.
We're waiting on Johnny.
Yep.
We're waiting on the old man.
Was he kind of the last guy in jail in this whole deal?
He's the last. He's the.
They called him the ringleader technically or whatever. They threw the book at him,
Well,
if you will.
Yeah.
So maybe he took a little more time than everybody else for shutting up because maybe he knew more than everybody else. So those kind of scenarios or whatever. But yeah,
hey, that whole thing was crazy. It was a crazy time, and it's even crazier time now. And yeah, I'd really like if you guys want to go to the Bickett Farm IG page, or I think I shared it on mine as well. We'll share it on the Dark Horse page, where you can write and request that Johnny be released, because he was already supposed to be released, and it makes no sense. Like, they were even doing early releases for other people because of COVID, but
they held him.
Right. And he's old, man. Like, I'd like to see him get out. I'd like to see our lives return to normal and let him get a little bit of some accolades that he deserves.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? I'd like to see them visit some of these events. I'd like us to have them out. Maybe even have them out for the 100K.
That'd be dope. If they can actually smoke, I'm sure they got to go through parole, but once they could smoke, we'll put them on the judges panel.
For sure.
You know what I mean? But yeah, a fucking man to that. We only got a few minutes left, so I'm going to give away another pack, but I want to thank BK for coming down. Anything you want to shout out, either tags or IGs or anything you want to shout out?
Nah, man. Illuminar for helping us out naturally.
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm wearing your shirt.
Yeah, he's wearing the shirt. Illuminar, we got him in the right corner. You can't see an IG, but Illuminar holds a badge in the right corner of the show. Yeah, thanks to Illuminar. I think I saw Scott in the chat. Thanks, Scott.
And
check them out.
All my homies, man. I got love for everyone. I got no hate for anyone except for snitches and bitches. Colin Gordon, Joint Breath. If you fall in that category, then don't fucks with me, because I don't fucks with you.
Amen. I like that. Word. I'm gonna give away some shit real fast. We only got a few more minutes. This one, Integrity cookies, feminized. We don't really put these on our site. You got to catch us in the shows or whatever. I guess that's not happened lately, but these ones are hard as fuck to get. Integrity cookies, little fem drop, a very limited little thing we did. So yeah, 6-pack of that. You're gonna have to use the email on your screen.
Show it again. Can't see it really.
Best. Where the fuck? There's the free shit email. Free shit email's coming. I'll try to give you a close-up cam. This one is the only one we've ever printed a fucking... I don't know. This might get me sued, but what the fuck ever. If you want that, how about the email going across your screen? darkhorsegeneticslive@gmail.com. Yeah, you can... how about put the 15th person this time? Put the word integrity in the subject line, and we'll pick the 15th person, and you'll win these shits. We'll send them right over to you. So yeah, with that said, also I just want to say real quick, this Friday we're going to do a very limited exclusive, probably less than 50 packs of Slobber Knockers, which is a new strain that I just sort of decided we're going to release. It's the Purple Starburst. So it's a Purple Starburst Thanos cross. So you're certainly going to want to fucking scoop these up. I don't have very many at all. So I decided to drop a couple. Yeah. Damn, that's really hard to read on that backdrop. Apologize.
Slide the pack up
There you go. I'll leave that scrolling for 1 second so that you guys can read darkhorsegeneticslive@gmail.com. But yeah, everybody, once again, thanks for tuning in. 20 fucking shows. Try to do it every Wednesday at 7 p.m. and bring on cool people with cool stories. I feel like we could talk to BK for quite a while. Like I said,
we'll have Nick on, and then we can talk about how, because that's how I became in the circle, right? Then you flash forward quite a few years, a few decades actually, and then, I come to find out that that's why we took our family vacations in Miami, Florida, was Dad was part of the crew as well, but he hid it from me forever.
Yeah, man. Big up and see if we can't get Nick Diaz to come on the show and tell us a little bit about MMA life and what's up now or whatever. And big UFC this weekend. So, yeah.
What up, Nick? You want to come out?
Cool, guys. We're going to sign this fucker off. Same bat time, same bat channel. Next week. Appreciate it. Shout out to Illuminar if you guys want dope lighting that we use. Check out Illuminar.